For more, let's speak to our reporter, Antonia Kerrigan. Hello to you. Antonia, tell us a little bit about the position that the U.S. Secretary of State finds himself in.
Well, it's fair to say it's an unenviable one. He tried to strike a note of consensus on boarding his plane last night. He said to the press that it was in all of the G7 countries' interests to see the Strait of Hormuz reopen. And of course, there is consensus. But he's now got to try and sell an increasingly ambiguous US strategy as the two blocks, the European allies and the American positions are completely divergent. Donald Trump, of course, didn't help things for Marco Rubio coming to this meeting by taking the opportunity yesterday to fire poke fun additionally at NATO allies, insulting or belittling their military capacities and also calling NATO allies disappointing for doing nothing, in his words. However, as he has extended this moratorium on energy infrastructure strikes in Iran and insists that Tehran are close to negotiating some kind of deal despite Iranian denials, the Europeans today are really going to be pushing Marco Rubio for some kinds of reassurances that there is actually a plan to end this. For their part, in response partly to the American suggestion that the NATO allies aren't doing anything at all, France and Britain have been setting up calls. There was a video call yesterday with 35 countries organised by France to discuss a potential coalition going forward to secure the Strait of Hormuz after this current war ends. However, that does still leave the ball in Washington's court to bring about some kind of progress on showing an end to this war. And Marco Rubio can expect something. He smiled for the cameras this morning, but he can expect something of a grilling today from many of his allies on that topic.
Antonia, there are also growing concerns, at least here in Europe, about cooperation between Russia and Iran.
Certainly, the EU diplomacy chief Kaja Kallas yesterday said that Russia are helping Iran with intelligence that's being used to target Americans in the Middle East. And furthermore, Yvette Cooper, the British Foreign Secretary, said this morning that Russia are even providing Iran with drones. These suspicions on this side of the Atlantic are increasingly strong. Marco Rubio has downplayed any such suggestions. He says that Russia essentially have their plate full with their war in Ukraine. But the Europeans aren't so sure, and that'll no doubt be a topic high up on the agenda in the meeting that's about to begin at 11:15 on support for Ukraine, because of course it's nothing new that European leaders are frustrated with what they perceive as Washington's indulgence towards Moscow, overindulgence. They feel that Donald Trump hasn't been a dependable enough ally for Kiev, and that indeed, if of course the Iranians and Russians are working together against the US, that could of course be a game changer. For now, though, it does not seem like it's something that Washington are taking particularly seriously.
All right, Antonia. Thank you very much. Antonia Kerrigan reporting from Vaux de Cernay. Well,